I just think it's funny how liberals are absolutely losing it over the fact that Bill Maher went to the White House and actually had a good time. Okay, he actually went to the White House and showed respect. Okay, kind of like in a way. Okay, and recognizing the fact that, you know, going to the White House is an honor, and he says. And I think that's huge. They're mad at him that he's not acting like a child. They're mad that he's actually being an adult and showing respect to a degree. Okay, they're furious over that. What do you guys think about that? We have this comment here on X. I forgot that Trump used to sue Bill Maher over Bill Maher's jokes. Now Maher in the White House bending the knee. How far he has fallen. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, let's get right into it.
Could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, you know, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You know, you've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this, President Trump? You know, extending this olive branch and we talked about things we had in common." You know, ending wokeness, you know, securing the border. You know, the president was asking him what he thought about policy, you know, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just meant, it blew my mind. I was, you know, very, very proud.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's an amazing thing to see.
Oh, here's a fun story. So I was in the Oval Office with that outfit on, and so I brought a change of clothes for dinner. That thing was very hot. So I was changing clothes, but Dana told me, he goes, Bobby missed it. When Bill Maher walked into the Oval Office, he said he looked pretty nervous, this, that, and the other. And, you know, the president said something to him real nice, and Bill's like, "I need a drink." And the president's like, "Get him a drink. What do you want?" He said, "I want a margarita." And the president had his people grab a margarita, and I grabbed a beer, and, man, we had a great time. Oh, here's a fun story. So I was in the Oval Office.
Yeah, it's huge. Shout out to our guy Benny. Let's get into our next clip here.
Was hyping it up. There you go. Kid Rock and Trump at the White House signing the executive order. Photo of Kid Rock there with the guitar, and I guess Kid Rock gave Trump a giant golden gun. That's freaking great. Okay, cool. Not sure how he got that one past Secret Service. Ladies and gentlemen, there was certainly an unwanted guest. You probably wouldn't want any guns in the room. When Bill Maher showed up at the White House last night, Bill Maher, obviously very famous.
All right, so there we have it. Bill Maher. My bad, guys. I'm saying Bill Maher. No, my bad.
Spoken leftist who hates Donald Trump, has called him every bad, naughty name in the book. Donald Trump did bring protection. He brought Dana White. Here's Dana White standing in the Oval Office while Kid Rock and Donald Trump were doing the press conference there. Dana White, Bill Maher, and Kid Rock having dinner at the White House. Amazing times. So what do we know about this dinner? We don't have any photos, don't have any video, but we do have some very interesting tidbits, including some of the musical accompaniment of the dinner. Kid Rock playing Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Steinway grand piano, which is over 100 years old. Beautiful, actually. Sounds incredible. This dinner was set up by Kid Rock, who says he wants to bring the country together. And I find it particularly interesting because one of the loudest names to predict Donald Trump's return to the White House was Bill Maher. I'm not saying Bill Maher likes Donald Trump. Bill Maher clearly hates Donald Trump. We'll get into that in just a second. But Bill Maher was the loudest, largest voice on the record saying Trump's coming back to the White House. Joe Biden, Democrats will lose.
The person who can go, yeah, but this is the case. And I've said it before. Do I think Joe Biden can do the job? Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't think he can win the job. And that's what I care about. He's going to lose because the people think he's too old. And perception is reality.
Wow. So Bill Maher saying what is absolutely demonstrably true there, that Joe Biden is going to lose because everybody in America hates him. Bill Maher suggests he might end his show over the return of Trump. I'm shitting my pants right now, as Bill Maher has said. Although he did say he's not going to go nuts again. I'm not going to lose my nervous system over Trump again. If he ends the world, it's going to end the world. I'm not going to go effing nuts if he wins another term. I just can't, he tells Jerry Seinfeld. Bill Maher, of course, has regularly and often criticized President Trump, but has also been one of those guys that criticizes his own side, saying that he hates and cannot stand wokeness with regularity, sort of hates the fact that his own party has been hijacked.
Woke, they would like to think they're an extension of liberalism. I'm an old school liberal. They're not. It's very often the opposite. And they think they're going so far in the right direction, and it actually turns out that they're in the wrong direction. And they've actually reversed it, because most of the countries in Europe now, England, the Scandinavian countries, the ones we used to always be able to say, well, look what the liberal countries are doing. They're all reversed themselves on this. They don't do the puberty blockers anymore. They don't do this stuff because of studies like this. And America is just doubling down on this stuff. So we are the outlier country on this stuff. And look, there's always a sensible middle ground.
So a sensible middle ground seems to be the reason why Kid Rock invited Bill Maher to the White House. And Bill Maher said yes. Bill Maher was met with this. When the elevator doors opened, this was what was waiting for you. What would you do in that situation? So
I think it's pretty cool to see that Bill Maher, I'm saying his name right now, Bill Maher, not Bill Maher. All right. It kind of reminds me of that one movie, I'm not going to say it, never mind. With Jim Carrey, where he said they asked him the question and he said "teh" instead of "the." I don't know. It's just kind of just crossed my mind like that. But I think the coolest thing about seeing Bill Maher go to the White House is he's setting the example for liberals, and we all know they can't accept accountability. Okay. But he's setting the example. He's like, no, he's the president. I'm going to support, well, not really entirely support, but I'm going to show up. I will be there. Okay. Which is huge because, you look at, who was it? Obama, Michelle Obama, not even being with Barack Obama at Carter's funeral. Okay, President Carter's funeral. Like the liberals they just consistently distance themselves from even their own party. They're very split up and just segregated, which is nothing new, and all over the place. So to see Bill Maher do this, I think is very interesting, and it explains why liberals are furious and losing it over this, a move like this from him.
Oh, Kid
Drop down below in the comments what you guys think. Let's get back into the video.
Rock has explained what happened at this dinner, and why he invited Bill Maher and what happened next. Donald Trump's dinner with comedian and critic Bill Maher could not have been better, Kid Rock claims. Kid Rock organized a meeting between President Trump and his liberal critic in an effort to have a little civility in the country and to bring people together. The dinner was attended by Kid Rock, who also appeared in the Oval Office as Trump signed ticket-scalping executive order, UFC CEO Dana White. Everyone was so surprised and pleased, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom. Kid Rock, whose real name is James Ritchie, said that he was surprised that Maher had never received a White House tour, despite donating millions to Democrat politicians. I was like, how about this? President Trump, extending an olive branch. We talked about things we had in common, wokeness, securing the border. He continued. The president was asking him what he thought about policy, what's going on with Iran and Israel and things. So Donald Trump's getting policy advice from Bill Maher. It blew my mind. I was very, very proud, said Kid Rock. Trump and Maher's beef go back more than a decade. In 2013, Trump sued Bill Maher $5 billion after the comedian said on The Tonight Show that the only thing in nature to match Trump's hair was the fur of an orangutan. The politically correct real-time host offered $5 million to the charity of Trump's choice, which he said would be the Hair Club for Men, if Trump was able to produce a birth certificate showing he wasn't half ape. Okay. All right. We used to be able to laugh in this country. Here's Kid Rock explaining this dinner.
What happened from start to finish in 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds, I went on Bill's show. I went on his podcast, and I said, man, you know, nothing happens if people don't break bread together and meet face to face. He's been one of the president's hardest critics, and we came to dinner, me, Bill, Dana White, and it could not have been better. Everyone was so surprised, so pleasant. The most shocking thing to me was, you know, Bill's obviously a very big liberal, been very hard on the president, but he's donated a lot of money to other politicians. You know, you've had Biden, Clinton, Obama, everybody. He had never been to the White House, and the president was so gracious. He took us up to the private residence. We saw the Gettysburg Address in the Lincoln bedroom, and I was like, "You've never been here, Bill?" And I was like, "How about this? President Trump, you know, extending this olive branch," and we talked about things we had in common, you know, ending wokeness, you know, securing the border. You know, the president was asking him what he thought about policy, you know, going on with Iran and Israel and things. It just meant, it blew my mind. It was, I was, you know, very, very proud.
Some more details here.
100%. Me and Dana both said there's never been that's ever met the president and any scenario that's walked away without saying, like, wow, what a great guy. He's so funny, so engaging. He's so smart. And absolutely, Bill even said to me, you know, after that, he goes, wow, that was, you know, everybody's mind was kind of blown. Even the president's, I think, because the president called me late night last night. And, you know, everyone was a little suspect about going into this. And even the president kind of alerted to me a little bit, like, what do you got me doing? Right. And I go, man, we're just trying to show people that, you know, even though we've been pretty hard on each other, that when you get face to face, maybe we could have a little more civility in this country and try to bring people together. And that was my whole intention.
You know,
Bill Maher brought to the.
Do you guys count this as a win? I count this as a win, but I think the Democrats will count this as a severe L. Like they will say that, you know, the country's, you know, now going underwater. Like we saw the first the X post that we showed at the start of the video. You know, you have liberals saying that, you know, Bill Maher is bending the knee to the Republicans, the right wing. I'm like, I didn't see that at all. I didn't think it was that at all. But okay.
The table by Kid Rock, who's the #1 diplomat for the MAGA movement. What a timeline. Some people are going to stream, and, you know, I might be one of them, that there should be other people who defended President Trump and who actually made this all possible, invited to the White House. But here's what I would say. And I agree, I understand that sentiment, right? And I totally get it. There's a bunch of people that really fought for Trump against people like Bill Maher who didn't get invitations to have dinner at the White House. And again, I totally get that. I just want to establish something. We're at war, and to win a war, you must take from your enemy. You must take from them. To destroy them, you must take from them. If you're fighting a cage match, Dana White was there in the room. If you're fighting a battle on a battlefield, it's not enough to just march forward. You have to diminish your enemy. And by doing that, you must steal from them. You must cripple them. You have to take from them. Someone's winning, someone's losing. Someone's losing ground. Someone's getting their ass handed to them. And that only happens if you are removing the advantages from your enemy. By burning them down, by storming the ramparts, or by taking some of their weapons. And that's what Bill Maher is. He's a weapon for the left. And what President Trump's doing here is taking a weapon from the left. Devenomizing, seeing an opportunity to deconstruct for a guy who regularly criticizes the Democrat Party and criticizes wokeness
So there we have it. Shout out to our friend Benny here. Shout out to Benny Johnson with those comments. You know, somebody said exactly what I was thinking. At least Bill Maher had, you know, the to walk into the lion's den. There's still hope that we can make America great again. Sort of, you know. Yeah, Republican, Democrat, or independent, the MAGA movement represents common sense. It definitely does. You destroy your enemy when you make him your friend. Interesting. Yeah, I commend Bill. Somebody said they commend Bill Maher for accepting the invitation. And yeah. Yeah, somebody else said, don't kid yourself. Maher was on his best behavior in enemy territory. Let's wait until he's on his own turf speaking to his fan base. All right. Yeah, so I think it's very interesting to see this. It's very interesting. I don't know. I kind of see it as a win. So, but then it's a win for the right again. Okay, if we're going to take sides, with that whole thing, rather than unite. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. I hope you guys have a great and awesome day. Peace.